more on this, we are joined by African Affairs analyst Joseph Ochieno, who is in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. Joseph, good to have you here with us on TRT World. So let me ask you, who do you think is going to be the likely winner?
That's a very difficult one. It's not one that friends like you in the media would like to be tasked to. It's a very difficult one. I must say that while we were preparing for the last 30 seconds coming on air, I was just thinking that what if perhaps the four major candidates, as you said, came together, sat together, and perhaps formed a government of national unity? Because the four of them bring different kind of skill sets, different backgrounds, different contradictions, and possibly might be the solution for this rather difficult country. Let me tell you, it was my plan to put in a suit this morning, but as I came to prepare for this program, I suddenly realized that there's no power. That's in Kampala, which has had one ruler for the last nearly 40 years. So you can still have power outage in the national capital in an area which is relatively exclusive. But if you think DRC instability since I was born, you're talking about a country so vast that and so rich that every other time I think about it, and for me, doing some of my work, including whenever I used to write for my column in the New African, I was looking back to campaign around, particularly the question of candidate Mukwege is talking about the thing about sexual abuse and abuse of women and children in extraordinary. So whoever wins is got a huge amount of responsibility. The question simply is, who is that likely to be? I think it's extremely unfair, really, the manner in which almost certainly it's the case that for you in the last elections, it does not seem to be the big name at the moment. The big name seems to be Moise-Katumbi, who's that businessman you talked about, regardless of his heritage. It's the case that a number of Congolese believe that because he was once upon a governor in part of the troubled Katanga sub-region, and he managed to deliver, if you like, average good service, maybe backed by business, he might be the sensible person. But of course, the incumbent always has incumbency already. Part of the campaigns and complaints by the majority of the people in DR Congo today is about not only the shambles, but possibly alleged fraud, which normally is not uncommon on this continent. So it's a difficult one, a difficult question, but perhaps I've just given a background of the complications.
You did. Joseph, let me ask you, how do you think the wider political spectrum of the country is going to be affected by these elections?
Extremely important and heavy. And that is if, as of December the 1st, when you come to January 2, 2024, Congo has a president elected with a mandate and, reasonable mandate, but with, if you like, the acceptance of the majority of the Congolese as their new president. That in itself, even if you were the incumbent, it would be a huge sign of relief, both for that country, but two, for neighboring countries, including my native Uganda, which is accused of plundering that country, accusation which is not particularly untrue. I think it is possibly the case that whatever happens, we just hope that the next couple of days go on peacefully and that people focus on the big agenda. Interestingly, the candidates today, if you look back to, granted, 10 or so years ago, it was appearing that maybe Congo does not have solid men and women of politics. But quite clearly here we have about four guys, including, as I said, the incumbent, who was not necessarily really a favorite, but somebody who, in a very interesting way, strikes a deal with Kagame, who was seen to be, if you like, the enemy from the neighborhood, with whom, a deal would mean, therefore, that a sense of stability in Congo. But it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked because Congo pulled out the East African regional forces the other day. And this guy now is saying that, well, he trusts more SADC forces, meaning forces from Southern African Development Community rather than the East Africans. Again, there, I don't necessarily blame them. I think Congolese are waiting, they're watching. We just hope that there is no violence that tips off the balance in terms of the outcome.
Joseph Ochieno, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.